Good evening, our viewers. You're watching Tigray Television live from Maqala. I'm Nalam Tajanu with today's news. Here are the details. On Friday, over 9,400 prisoners of war were released from Maqala, the capital of Tigray. The announcement comes just days before the peace talks scheduled to be held in South Africa on Monday. The released POWs are observed dancing and singing after the announcement. Many that were released expressed their joy over the announcement and were excited to be reunited with their family members. Sarah Kalali has more.
Prisoners of war are seen joyfully chanting and dancing at the camp they had been sheltered in Maqala. On Friday, the release of over 9,400 Ethiopian and Eritrean prisoners of war was announced by the government of Tigray. Coordinator at the camp, Shifarra Saha, had this to say.
ያው በዚህ ዕለት እዚ ልዕሊ 9400 ዝኾኑ ናይ ኢትዮጵያን ናይ ኤርትራን
On this day, the government of Tigray announced the release of over 9,400 Ethiopian and Eritrean prisoners of war. The reason for the release of these prisoners of war reflects the policy of the government. The people of Tigray are fighting for their survival, and we know who our enemy is and who isn't. Our enemies are Abiy and Isaiah's governments, so our fight is neither with the people of Ethiopia nor Eritrea.
Some 500 of the released prisoners of war are women. Prisoners released yesterday expressed their joy over the announcement and thanked the people of Tigray for their warm hospitality throughout their stay in Tigray.
The people of Tigray have given us all they could and took good care of us. And today, we have been released, so we are very happy. The people of Tigray shouldn't die while asleep. They shouldn't die due to hunger. They are fighting for their survival, and I recognize this. It was not our own relatives, but the people of Tigray that were here for us, so that we won't get sick or die of hunger. On behalf of my comrades, I want to express how happy we are about the announcement.
Some prisoners say they were surprised by the announcement.
We don't deserve to be released. We should have been punished, but we are freed now. Our fears did not materialize, and we thank the people and government of Tigray for this.
This decision by the government of Tigray is the third of its kind, where it had released over 5,000 detainees in the previous 2 rounds.
United States Ambassador to UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities and the restoration of services in Tigray. She also says it is past time for Ethiopia to ask Eritrea to withdraw its soldiers from northern Ethiopia. Let's take a look at her remarks on the United Nations Security Council meeting on Friday.
As the Secretary General said this week, and I quote, "The situation in Ethiopia is spiraling out of control. The social fabric is being ripped apart, and civilians are paying a horrific price. In the past week alone, we've seen a serious uptick in fighting and violence. Thousands of Ethiopian, Eritrean, TPLF forces are engaged in active combat. The scale of the fighting and deaths rival what we're seeing in Ukraine, and innocent civilians are being caught in the crossfire. Over 2 years of conflict, as many as half a million people have died, and the United States is deeply concerned about the potential for further mass atrocities, and we all should be. We're also horrified by the recent death of an aid worker from the International Rescue Committee and the injuries of others. We heard today that a total of 26 humanitarian workers have been killed over the course of the past 2 years. That's approximately 2 per month. This tragedy underscores the serious dangers facing humanitarian workers in the region. And as I told the Security Council just now, it's past time for all of the parties to lay down their weapons and return to peace. It is past time for a cessation of hostilities and for unhindered humanitarian access to all those in need. And it is past time for your Eritrean defense forces to halt their joint military offensive and for Ethiopia to ask Eritrea to withdraw its soldiers from northern Ethiopia. We're pleased that the AU announced that peace talks will begin on Monday in South Africa, and we welcome the strong statement made by the African Union the AU Peace and Security Commission today. And we welcome the stated commitment by the governments of Ethiopia and Tigray regional authorities to participate in these meetings. It is critical that all of the parties seize this opportunity and engage seriously in talks to bring an end to the fighting and the suffering of the Ethiopian people. Once the fighting stops, and it must, warring parties must negotiate concrete modalities to prevent a return to conflict, including security arrangements, a pathway to broader political dialogue, and assurances of unhindered humanitarian access and restoration of services. I can tell you that the United States is fully and actively engaged in diplomatic efforts at the highest levels of our government to support the African Union. The United States remains prepared to take appropriate measures against those who obstruct a resolution of this conflict, and we're determined to have those who commit human rights abuses held to account. Let me be clear, there is no military solution to this conflict. The only path forward is for the parties to pursue a negotiated settlement through peace talks, and we must prevent the region from spiraling further out of control. There's no time to waste. Thank you very much.
An official document from Tigray's Emergency Coordination Center has revealed that about 40 women and girls were raped in Shararo. The center, which includes UN agencies, NGOs, and regional bureaus, found that hundreds of civilians were killed and abducted by Eritrean forces in different occupied towns across northwestern Tigray. Salome Tigrai has more.
Associated Press has revealed that at least 40 women and girls between the ages of 13 and 80 were raped in the town of Shararo in northwestern Tigray. According to an official document, the AP said it obtained from Tigray's Emergency Coordination Center, which includes UN agencies and non-governmental organizations. 8 more rapes were also recorded in Tsalamti, northwestern Tigray. In the recently occupied town of Shira, the report stated that Eritrean forces were looting vehicles and have captured warehouses belonging to NGOs. The document also indicated that 159 individuals were shot dead in Adiabo, Tsalamti, and Dedabit of northwestern Tigray, while many others were injured from gunshots and shelling. The whereabouts of an additional 157 individuals abducted by Eritrean forces from Dedabit, Tsalamti, and Shararo also remains unknown. Shararo in northwestern Tigray had fallen into the hands of the allied Ethiopian and Eritrean forces last month. Earlier this week, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres had said that cessation of hostilities must take place immediately, stating that civilians in Tigray were paying heavy price from indiscriminate shelling and bombing. The African Union convened peace talk is expected to begin in South Africa next Monday, after previous talks that were to be held in October 8 were postponed.
Tigray Orthodox Tewahedo Church Theology Graduates Association office calls worldwide religious organizations to join the campaign of condemning the genocide in Tigray. In its letter written to all Oriental churches, Russian Orthodox Church, Greece Orthodox Church, Catholic Church, and World Church Council, today the association called for help in swiftly ending the war and the all-encompassing siege taking place in Tigray. According to the association, numbers of religious leaders, clergymen, laities have been slaughtered and nuns have been gang-raped since the start of the war in November 2020. The association calls for its religious counterparts all over the world to urge mainly for the immediate withdrawal of the invaders, including the Eritrean forces, to allow unfettered humanitarian access for the people of Tigray and join them in their prayers for ending the ongoing agony. We have spoken with residents of Maqala regarding the opinions there. I will read again the news. We have spoken with residents of Maqala regarding their opinions on the current atrocities that are taking place in areas under the occupation of Ethiopian and Eritrean forces and the stand of the international community. Let's take a look.
نحن لساتنا في الجوع وقاعد يرمي لنا الصواريخ والطيارات الدرون هذا كل شيء.
People here are starving, and the Ethiopian government keeps sending jets and drones to bomb civilians. Also, all methods of communication are cut off. There are no medications. Their intentions are to eradicate us all.
والله حاسة احنا قريب زي سنتين يعني محصورين 360.
It has been 2 years since Tigray was put under a comprehensive siege. No country in history has invited foreign forces to invade and attack its very own people. These allied forces have been killing us, burning people alive, throwing people off the cliffs, and shelling our residential area, bombing civilians using drones and jets. We can withdraw our money from bank. We couldn't get any medication or treatment. Where is the international community? The international community had not sided with us in bringing about a tangible way out. It has not taken any concrete action to stop this. They sit and watch our cries through televisions doing nothing.
فين العالم؟ العالم إيش قاعد تسوي؟
What is the international community? It is aware of what's happening in Tigray, but sadly, it hasn't gone far beyond statements of concern.
ولكن المجتمع الدولي خذل شعب تيغراي.
The international community has failed in helping the people of Tigray. Where are the international human rights organizations? What were the mission they were founded to accomplish? Former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has been visiting for a while now, but hasn't done anything worthwhile.
يعني الناس بتموت بالجوع بتموت بعدم الدواء.
People are dying from lack of medication and starvation. We've called on the international community countless times to save us from this dangerous position. Weren't all the humanitarian organizations formed to help and assist those in need? Why then aren't we getting help?
Tigray University Scholars Association calls on the United Nations Security Council to label the Eritrean government as an aggressor, stressing that the deeply concerned mantra of the international community has come up with a concrete solution. Once again, Tigray University Scholars Association is looking for a substantive measure, one out of which is calling the actors by their proper name. Full report by Solomon Berha Abelzakabu.
TUSA recalls that the involvement of the Eritrean forces has been visible as exposed by the international media. Despite the denouncement by both Eritrean and Ethiopian governments, this had disinformed the international community at large in the early days of the war. TUSA in its statement reassured that more than 40 divisions from the Eritrean side alone have been involved in the ongoing total war. To make things worse, added the association, in their recent attacks after the resumption of the war last August, mothers and children have been mercilessly bombarded, slaughtered, and displaced, mentioning the brutal case of Maqala, Adja'aro, Shira, and Adgrat. TUSA calls on the United Nations Security Council to strongly condemn and call the Eritrean government as an aggressor and convert its inaction in a way that bears fruit and end to the hostilities that is taking lives of millions of people from both countries. It is to be recalled that the EU, in its recent resolution, confirmed the Eritrean government's involvement in shelling of children and women in Tigray.
And that's the news for now. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.